Okay, One Piece live action. Just talking about anime live action makes you sigh. Now imagine doing this for the biggest manga that exists. Yeah, those guys had a really big shoe to fill. And do you think they managed to do it? That this is one of the few live action adaptations that would have worked? What do you think? Talk to me. I think it was kinda cool, to be honest. I'm going to talk about spoilers, so you already know. Everything is quite different from the real One Piece, but it's still the same. Anyways, you probably won't catch me talking about new anime, manga, or relatively recent things here on the channel. But yeah, sometimes I just have to talk about One Piece stuff. I just can't hold myself, especially for something this big. So a little background for people who don't know me. I've been reading the manga for over 10 years, and I've even done a few One Piece videos in the past. So this video is from the perspective of someone who's a mega fan of the story. Although I went into this live action with zero expectations. So let's go. For starters, no, this adaptation is by no means one for one. They change a lot of things, and that problem, depending on what kind of person you are, is going to be the hardest situation to swallow, because a lot of things are cut, but there's a lot of things that are also much more developed than the original manga or anime. Nami, Zoro and Luffy meeting each other in Shell's Town at the same time already makes the beginning look completely different. Is it bad? Yeah, for the purists probably, but it's done in a very tasteful way. Luffy and Nami's interactions inside the marine base is really cool to watch, and pretty much every liberty they took was to elevate the story and try to create more opportunities that not only new fans can enjoy it, but for the old ones to not know exactly what's going to happen either. Hakumepo starting with long hair and Zoro cutting in a bowl cut during the naked scene was really cool and very well done. It honors both his initial design and the one that appears later. It shows well the quality of the people who produced the series, and several times you can see Oda Sensei's hand in parts that perhaps he wanted to be different, but that he never managed to change in the story itself, and now that he had this opportunity to do it all over again, he certainly grabbed it, and it's pretty cool. Some things were kinda meh, because of the short time to develop the story in the series limitations. X-Hand Morgan is condemned in the end without showing practically any cruelty. Well, if he had kicked a recruit out of the 50th floor window of the marine base, it would have been enough, but from what was shown here, the guy was just doing his job and he was a bit of a tyrant. And in the end, Garp arrested him just because he was corrupt? As much as they show Garp in the series, Garp had more reason to be arrested than Morgan. But anyway, and they really like Garp and Kobe in the series, huh? They show up a lot more than they do in the manga, mixing new stories with cover stories with the normal story. It makes sense, showing the dynamic of the Marines versus the Pirates that isn't addressed too much in the beginning during East Blue, where most enemies are pirates. But because of that, with Garp, it kind of gave away all the mystery of the character. They already say that he's Luffy's grandfather right away. They already have their interactions that happens in Water 7. It's something very bizarre to see. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's hard to get used to see Kobe in Usopp's village or Garp in Nami's village. It kinda bugs out the head of those who know the story, and it's not very easy to get used to it. It's not bad, but it's different. Luffy interacts more with Kobe here, a series that adapts only the East Blue saga, than in the entire One Piece story. Personally, I thought that this Garp storyline was kind of took the weight off the character too quickly and made him kind of an asshole, with a slightly different personality than the original character. What makes it more complex to say whether it's good or bad is that all of it is portrayed very well. The actor is really badass, and when he goes to punch Luffy, you can see his worried face for punching his grandson. It's cool, but I really didn't like having him getting so much screen time this early. But more or less, I understand why. If Smoker had appeared early, they probably wouldn't have approached Garp so soon, because at the end of the day, they kind of don't adapt the whole East Blue. Lockdown is missing. This exposition of characters that are too much for the beginning of the story also happens with Mihawk. Here, much more of the type of person he is shown, much more than just showing up and making fun of Zoro and leaving on his coffin boat, which by the way, I don't think they did the boat. Or did they? If there was his boat somewhere, I didn't see it. But like, the change they made of Goofy's fight with Krieg for Mihawk just killing on the side was a good idea. I don't think anyone cares much about having Krieg's fight or that Dan Pearl. They are very okay characters that nobody really cares too much, and yet it's done in a very clever way. Only Gin is more forgotten here than the original story. Poor dude. At least he showed up, right? I won't stand for Johnny and Yosaku's erasure. The guys didn't even have the right to get a rock to the head from Usopp's canon. Django, Hachan, Momo, many big characters have disappeared. It's not just because Michael Jackson died that there's no one else to play Django, right? Dude, they made Kuro so dapper. They made him more like a horror hotel or something like that. They made the Nyaban brothers. One of them now is not a weird skinny man to be brothers anymore, but anyways, they managed to make them more interesting than they were originally, with more sense in the plot of taking Kaya's money and all. But without Django, feels bad, man. If you stop to think about it, in the original story, Django appears more than Kuro at the end of the day, and here, he doesn't even exist. Meh, it's not that bad, to be honest. He's not that big of a character, and the story of Usopp was still fun. Then we come to the two main villains, Buggy and Arlong. Buggy was portrayed perfectly. It couldn't have been better. But because the Orange Town arc doesn't exist here, I thought his story was a bit rushed. Yeah, he keeps popping up all the way to the end, to then carry on if they do a second season for Log Town and all. But I had a feeling that he was underexplored in the part that was his spotlight. It didn't have the Buggy Dama, but at least it had Mini Buggy. It didn't have Captain Richie, but the Buggy we got was really nice. They kind of already took the silly side of Buggy that only appeared a little later already in the Grand Line. Now Arlong... First of all, the guy shows up right away on Baratie. It's weird, but okay. Arlong and Buggy in theory don't need all that to go after a fuck Grand Line map. They literally came from there. Why would they be so thirsty to get a single map? But anyway, Arlong... It's hard to swallow. The mannerisms, the accent, the way of speaking were very good. The actor did amazing, but man, why does he look like that? Kurobi and Chu turned out ugly as hell, but they look good. But Arlong just looked like a very dedicated cosplayer. If I were to say that something was really bad about the series, that's it. You just can't take him too seriously. Oh, there's all sorts of fishmen that appear on the background with a physique and intimidation greater and more like Arlong than Arlong himself. I don't know, man. I think his shoulder is too low because of his shirt. The actor doesn't even look like that. So I believe most would agree that at least Arlong's design could have been better, if you think the rest of him was okay. Because, let's see, Morgan's part was kinda fast, but it was nice. He had a cool design. They made him less cartoonish, and it turned out nice. Kuro, in most points, was better than the original. Krieg, even appearing for 2 minutes, was well done. Buggy too, cool. Only Arlong that isn't that good, right? Which is a shame. Alright, I said a lot and I didn't talk about the protagonists until now, right? I would say they were all very well made and well done. They found very similar actors for their roles. Nami, just like Garp, changed a little. She became less of a snake at the beginning, and with an empathy a little more similar to what we see in Punk Hazard. But other than that, everything turns out pretty much what we would expect. But Zoro, Nami and Luffy, until around episode 6 or 7, are a little bland because they make the same facial expression for literally everything. Zoro has that "I think that's a damn cool" face all the time. Luffy with that "I don't give a single shit about anything you are saying, my dude" smile on his face all the time as well. And Nami looks like she's about to choke out someone every second she appears. But then feels like they loosen up a bit further in the series. They became more flexible and much more human. Now Usopp and Sanji, perfect. Usopp doesn't have a big nose, but he looks amazing. He also didn't pull the legal hammer in the fight against Jules, so it's one minus punch there for him. But otherwise, the guys did amazing adapting the two characters. Sanji was certainly a character that couldn't have been better either. From the mannerism to the accent, the actor created all the sophistication of the character in a very particular way. That was amazing and fit perfectly with the character. But that's all about the Straw Hat Crew. So about the other characters. With Mihawk, they couldn't find a better actor. He was nearly perfect. Shanks' crew were amazing. Shanks looks like Ryan Gosling in an alternative world. I think Goofy is hunting replicants around. Lucky Roo, it's not a giant ball, but he looks nice too. Yasop was perfect. Ben Beckman has the clothes he appeared in the beginning in his first design. He doesn't appear with any updated clothes. It's pretty cool, the attention to detail. Alvida turned out pretty much what you would expect if she was real. Kobe and Hagmepo turned out really good. Nojiko and Genzo were also what you would expect and turned out really nice. I don't know if I'm forgetting someone, but Moji and Kabaji barely showed up, but their design was spot on. And from the little that they appeared, it was cool. The only thing missing is Richie. Gin only shows up when it's time to eat, and GG, he never shows up again. Zeph Gordon-Ramsay was almost perfect too. Bogard, wow, Bogard was badass, they really remembered him. It was nice to see. Nezumi is an asshole, as he should be. Nami mentions the 77 Marine Division, but Pudding that comes to capture Arlong is also missing here. Garp kind of takes his role. Speaking of which, every detail is just perfect. From the clothes, there are mostly references and actually appears in the original story or in extra materials. Nami in some parts appears with her concept outfit, which is really cool and very underground. Zoro with the suit from the manga cover. Everything has an attention to detail that is simply amazing. They never make anything up. If they mention something, that something actually exists in the story. Mirror Ball is the island that Jungle joins the Marines. The 77th Division is the Pudding division that I mentioned. Six's Island and Zoro's fight with Mr. 7 that is not shown in the manga is the same island where Ace ate the Mega no Mi. So everything in that regard is just perfect. From the Denemushi to the scenery and everything in between, and also the Easter eggs. It's really cool to see, and those who are addicted to the story will recognize every little detail that just makes you go crazy pointing at the screen. It's so damn fun. But at the end of the day, only if you are the kind of person who would be mad because they changed the order of the event, the way of the story, that they didn't tell everything straight up, maybe it wouldn't be worth watching. But if you are not that kind of person, I would recommend watching. It's a good series. I wouldn't say it's the best thing in the world since sliced bread, but it's not bad by any means either. Sometimes the actors are a bit bland, especially the kids, but then again, it's not that bad at all, and it can certainly be considered an adaptation that managed to do what it should, even with all the opposition and the heavy weight it received since before it was released. It's a quality series that honors the name of the story that marked the lives of many people, and it was certainly a good surprise.